Hey, what's up guys? This is Rick with the Digital Divide, and today I want to do a review of the Galaxy Tab S6 Lite. I recently picked one of these up on sale and I wanted to talk about it. Specifically though, I want to talk about the 2022 edition because there is another version of this that launched in 2020 and then it's been revised. The biggest difference between the two mostly has to do with the processors in them. The 2020 model launched with a Exynos 9611 CPU and a Mali G72 GPU, but in 2022, Samsung decided to upgrade the CPU to a Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G and an Adreno 618 GPU, so you'll definitely notice snappier performance in the newer model, which is the one that I'm doing a review on today. Another difference is the 2020 model only launched with Android 10, whereas the 2022 model launches with Android 13, which is the newest OS for Android, although I do believe the 2020 supports that as well. Aside from that, they're very similar. They both have 4 gigs of RAM, either 64 or 128 gigs of memory that is expandable with a micro SD card. They both have really great stereo audio that is tuned by AKG and supports Dolby Atmos. They both have an 8 megapixel rear camera, 10.4 inch display at 2000 by 1200 resolution, and this is the tablet itself. It is very sleek looking. It's made out of aluminum, so this is all metal. There's no cheap plastic components that you would see in something like an Amazon Fire tablet. This is a more premium feel to it. It does have an 8 megapixel camera on the front there, but if you're using that in landscape mode, then you're going to be off on the side there, which is a common issue with a lot of tablets. Now, as I mentioned, this does have stereo speakers that are tuned by AKG. It's meant to be listened to in landscape mode so that you've got a speaker on the left and a right there, so you get great audio separation. If my camera would focus, there is a microphone there, then you also get a headphone jack at the top. Nothing on this side, but if we flip it to the bottom, you do have a USB Type-C fast charging port. And then on the other side here, we have your power, volume rocker, another microphone, and then your micro SD slot to expand the internal storage. And of course, because this is an S series of tablet, it comes with Samsung's S Pen, which is an amazing pen. I've had 2 tablets now that came with this, and it's just really, really neat. It's super responsive and great to see included in the box with the tablet. And we'll get into specifics on some of this stuff later. There is a dedicated pen button on the right here that is like a shortcut to give you access to a bunch of applications that are made specifically for the S Pen. And then you can add some, like I added the Sketchbook app from the App Store. You can add that to the shortcut menu as well. And this pen is pressure sensitive, so the harder down you press, the darker the lines will be, and so forth. So it's really, really cool, super responsive. Absolutely love it. This would be great for note-taking if you were a student. And the pen does magnetically attach to the top of the unit and never needs to be charged. Jumping into the software here, I'll scroll down so that you can see that it is in fact running Android 13, and this is how I got mine out of the box. We'll go to software information, and it has Android version 13 listed there, which is the newest version of Android. This does ship with the newest version of the One UI, which is 5.1 as well. Samsung does add some additional perks on top of the stock Android here, and we'll get into some of those later. I'm going to jump over here to power so I can show you that the battery is in fact a 7040 milliamp battery. In my testing, I've gotten about 7 to 8 hours on a mixed usage scenario with the brightness at about 70%. So before I get started, I always like to go over accessories that I consider must-have for a device like this. The first being your standard folio case. These were made popular by Apple when the iPad came out, and they make them for pretty much every tablet you can think of. But this one is made specifically for the Tab S6 Lite. The tablet itself obviously fits in there perfectly, but one of the cool things is that they allow you still use the top of the tablet if you want it to be magnetically attached there. They don't cover up or interfere with the magnets on the top. So you can still put it there, but then they also have a slot at the bottom in case you don't want to leave it hanging out. It might fall off or something like that. So it's nice to have the option, and that does support auto wake as well. Then I also, I always pick up a Bluetooth keyboard because I tend to use my tablets more for productivity. So a good Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, in my opinion, is a must. And then if you plan to do any kind of gaming, I also recommend a great controller. I have this Xbox One here that I'm using for my setup. So with all these accessories together, this really is a cool productivity workhorse. You can get a lot done with this. It's super snappy and responsive. You can use it for work, you can use it for gaming, you can use it for art. There's a bunch of applications such as, Microsoft Office applications. We've got Excel here, Word, Outlook, they're all supported. PowerPoint, I believe, is available on here as well. So you can really use this to do some work in a pinch if you don't have your laptop with you or you don't feel like carrying it around. And the responsiveness is super snappy. If we open up Google and go to NASA's website, for example, it loads up pretty much instantly and is a very, very smooth experience throughout. This tablet really offers a great user experience and is super fast for most of your needs. So if you're not familiar, Samsung has a series of tablets called the A Tab, and those are the cheaper ones. And then they have their S series tablets, which this falls under. And all of the S series tablets support Samsung DeX mode. So DeX mode kind of transforms the user interface into more of a laptop, a traditional laptop interface. As you can see here, you've got your calendar and time at the bottom right. You have a regular mouse cursor that you would see in something like a traditional desktop or laptop. And more importantly, you can minimize everything, essentially. Games, web browsers, any application. When you're in DeX mode, you can multitask so much easier than you can in tablet mode, and that's the biggest benefit of this mode. You still have access to all of your traditional apps, but they're accessed slightly different in that they open up as little boxes that are movable and placeable wherever you want to on the desktop versus taking up the entire screen. So that's really neat. On the left here, I can browse the internet. On the right, I can look at some files. I could play a game if I wanted to. I could have some music open. You can do so much at the same time with this, and it's just easier to do it in this mode. Continuing on the topic of productivity, there's a lot of really cool built-in features with Android 13, as well as the perks that Samsung add. It has a built-in screen recorder. You can show your taps and touches if you want to record a session. You can record just the video, or you can record the video with your microphone on. It just makes it so easy to do all of this. And again, the pen is amazing. This smart menu here lets you access all of the apps that are specifically made for the S Pen, and they all work amazingly well. There is a cool little feature here if you're in a meeting, and I touched on this with the Tab S8, but there's like a picture-in-picture view where you can have like a live feed of the front-facing camera while you're doing a meeting. You also have the ability to write anywhere you want to. If we open up Excel, for example, if I was hosting a Zoom meeting and sharing my screen, I could open up an Excel document, and there's a feature where I can tell it that I want to write on top of this document without actually editing it. So I can write whatever I want here, and only the people that are part of the meeting can see this. It's not writing in the Excel document or altering the document itself. It's just a layer on top of the document. And this is made specifically for meetings, and it's really cool. So even if I close the Excel document that I was sharing, you can see that the writing is still on the screen there. So it doesn't interfere with the application that you're writing on top of, which is just really cool for productivity stuff and meetings specifically, or doing like a presentation. You can even change your cursor to a mouse to make it easier for people to follow along while you're doing a presentation. There's just so many cool features, and Samsung includes their Notes app on here, which is great. Now, this Notes app is capable of translating all of your writing into text, so you could just write whatever you want to in here, and you can output that into a Word document that is translated in standard text format, which is cool. I don't typically use that all too often. I use this just to make notes on. One of my favorite apps is free on the Google Play Store, and I've shown this before in other videos. It's called the Sketchbook app. It is completely free and shockingly feature-rich for $0, and it works really well. Now, I don't have the patience to do something complicated today. Normally I do a little sketch or doodle. I'll do one here now, but I'm not going to do anything special, or I'm not even going to add any color here. I'm just going to do a quick little doodle of like a pumpkin or something like that. Just to give you an idea of how responsive this is, it really does feel like you're writing on paper. And actually, when I have the audio muted on the tablet feed at the moment, but while you're writing, you can opt in so that it makes a little sound while you're drawing, which adds to the immersion there. I can't recommend this pen enough, and it's amazing that they include it at no additional cost. Check this app out if you like just doodling on your spare time. It's pretty cool. I'm just scribbling and drawing nonsense on here at the moment, but just you get the idea. There's a lot of tools here that you can use to make some really cool stuff if you are so inclined. So as I mentioned before, this tablet features dual stereo speakers that are tuned by AKG Harman, and they support Dolby Atmos, and it's hard to convey the quality of these speakers through a YouTube video, as always, but I have to say these are some of the best sounding speakers I've ever heard on a tablet. I'll try to convey that here.
I was cold, I was lonely, no one for to even phone me. Look at me now, I'm a fighter, I'm a strong bitch, baby, I'm designer. Trying to shine a light on, light on, light on. Anybody sitting in the dark and crying, fix your makeup, pull your hair, pull up a seat over here. Gotta do what you do to get by. Back up, we're in trouble.
So as mentioned earlier, there's a rear-facing 8-megapixel camera, and then there's a front-facing 5-megapixel camera. I did some tests with this, and the quality is surprisingly good. It's not incredible by any stretch of the imagination, but here's some examples of pictures that I took with the front-facing camera, which again is 8 megapixels, and the color reproduction and clarity is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So this would not be horrible to use in a pinch if you didn't have a better camera on hand with you, if you're on vacation or something like that. This is a sample of the video quality that it takes. Just walking around my neighborhood. The video quality is not the best. It's only, I believe it's 1080p at 30 frames per second, so it's nothing compared to something like an iPad, which supports up to 4K at 60 frames per second. So this is really not meant for video, but it's there if you want to use it for that. This is what the front-facing camera quality looks like if you're curious. So can it game? Can this thing game? Well, we're going to test out a few scenarios. We're going to start off by testing native games. Can this run native games on the Google Play Store? So I'm going to go ahead and sync my Xbox controller here, and we're going to play some native Android games to see how they run. This is typically a more demanding game. It's called Grid Autosport. In my opinion, this is one of the best racing games ever made. So as you can see, the game runs smooth as butter, even with a dozen cars on screen. This is running at the highest setting that this tablet will support for this game. And again, it's running smooth as butter. This is not streaming, this is native. It's running on the hardware itself. So if you're buying this tablet to game on, I think you won't have any complaints. I don't think there's a single game on the Google Play Store that you won't be able to play with this tablet. So let's jump into another game. I'm going to load up this game. It's called The Sun Origin. If I'm being honest, this game is horrible. It's just so boring, but it's kind of a good example to show because it is a massive open world first-person shooter. It is very much like Fallout 4, for example. It's basically that, but in Russia. And it's just slow-paced, but again, it can be demanding depending on what kind of setup that you've got. And you can see it's running perfectly here. It's running at the maximum resolution and settings that the game supports, which is really cool. I've got all the foliage maxed out. This is just an example that pretty much you can run a variety of games on this tablet and you're going to have a good time. All right, we're going to jump over to one more native game before I take a look at some streaming gaming options. Now we're going to take a look at XCOM. I'm going to fast forward through the opening credits here just for the sake of time. So as you can see, the game looks great, and it runs great too. I know this game's a few years old at this point, but it's still one of my favorite strategy games ever made. It's completely 3D, takes place from a top-down isometric perspective, and visually I think it still holds up really well, and it runs perfectly on this tablet. So as you can see, there's a variety of games. This is a strategy game, first-person shooter, racing game, all kinds of different games are going to work fine on this tablet. You won't have any complaints. Alright, so now we're going to try PlayStation Remote Play. So to sync your PlayStation 5 controller up, you want to hit the share button and the PlayStation button at the same time and hold them down until the controller starts blinking or flashing blue. Then you know it's in Bluetooth pairing mode. So then you'll just jump into the tablet, click on Bluetooth, and the PlayStation DualShock controller should pop right up. It was super easy process with Android devices, and it just works out of the box. So we're going to see how well PlayStation Remote Play works on this. And if you don't know what that is, basically PlayStation Remote Play lets you play your PlayStation games anywhere in the world on any device. As long as your PlayStation 5 is connected to the internet and you download the app and pair it to your PlayStation 5, you can just jump right in and play PS5 games as if you were playing it right on the system itself. So I'm going to check this out and see how well it runs. As you can see, I'm remoted into the PlayStation 5. The audio works. It looks super crisp. I apologize about the video quality here. The lighting wasn't the best, but we're going to go ahead and boot up Midnight Suns, and I'm going to skip through the opening credits here a little bit for the sake of time. All right, so we're in the game. As you can see, visually, there's barely any artifacting at all. Responsiveness is great. There's not a lot of lag. There's a little bit of noticeable latency, just a tiny bit, as far as the analog sticks dead zone are concerned. But other than that, I mean, I wouldn't want to play Call of Duty this way on the PS5 streaming, but for a game like this, or for a game that doesn't require super fast twitch movement, this is excellent. This is more than playable. Alright, next we're going to try using this device as a Steam Link. As long as you have a gaming computer on the same network, you can use this device as a Steam Link, so you can stream all your PC games directly to this device. Now, I think this only works locally. I don't think you can take it anywhere in the world like you can with the PlayStation Remote Play, but as long as you're on the same network, you should be able to play your games on Steam through this. So we're going to open up a super demanding game, Cyberpunk 2077, and see how well the streaming pans out on this device. And you can see it automatically detects that I'm using a PlayStation 5 controller, and it adds the button layout at the bottom, which is kind of neat. And here we are, playing Cyberpunk 2077 on a tablet through Steam. I'm using a controller now, obviously, but this is a really great experience. I gotta say, the latency is a lot better on this than it was on the PlayStation streaming. And here's some direct feed right from the tablet, so you can see the visual quality that I was getting while I was playing this. This was captured from the tablet itself. As you can see, the visual quality is incredible. It is super clean. I don't see any artifacting or any visual issues whatsoever. I wouldn't know this was being played remotely unless someone told me. And with Steam Link, the touchscreen works. You can use a mouse and keyboard, you can use a controller. Any input you want will just work automatically. So that's really cool to see. Now, if you're wondering if the USB port on the Tab S6 Lite supports video out, unfortunately it does not. It only does power and data. I tried to hook my external monitor up to it to see if I could get any video, but it was not working, unfortunately. But that said, it's super easy to broadcast video from the device to any smart TV or external display. So if you're watching Netflix or YouTube or whatever app you're watching, all you need to do is hit the cast button. It should automatically see any smart device within range and just stream the video directly over seamlessly. I'm going to go ahead and skip this ad. So now I'm playing my video on my big screen TV, but I can still use my tablet to surf the web or do work or check my emails or anything, and it won't interrupt the feed to the TV, which is really cool. One neat thing I found out about this is that if you buy a USB dock like I have here, you can buy an Ethernet adapter and get this thing to support full gigabit Ethernet speeds, which is really cool. I have an Ethernet cable plugged into my switch here, and it automatically worked. I didn't have to do any configuration. The tablet automatically detected the Ethernet cable was there, which is really neat. Another thing to note here is that this device does support USB-C fast charging and comes with the power brick necessary to do that. As soon as you plug it in, it'll say fast charging and tell you exactly how long it'll take before it gets to a full charge. I know that sounds trivial, but a lot of devices don't even come with chargers these days. Now, the 128 gig version of this tablet, which is the one that I'm reviewing today, retails for $429.99, so about 430 bucks, but it never actually sells for that. It is always on sale. Every time I've ever seen it, it's been on sale for between $300 and $350. So I would not recommend paying full price for this, because chances are you can find it for a lot less if you just look at the right places. So that's going to do it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review and this was helpful if you're thinking about picking one of these up. It is very, very similar to the Tab S8, which I reviewed a few years back, but fantastic tablet. As always, thanks for watching.